Well, good morning. It's officially time to kick off our property tour. Welcome, welcome, everybody. We appreciate you all getting on today. My name is Scott Buckholz. I am your host. We also have Yaz Hawk on, our co-host. We love doing these property tours. These are awesome tours to share with you an investor or a team of investors from our community somewhere across the country. Today, we're going to be up in the Minnesota market. Next week, we're going to be in the Austin, Texas market. I think the week after that, we go back to the DC, Maryland, Virginia market. So we're constantly moving around the country, and we love to show other people's deals and share their stories and basically give you guys, some golden nuggets from these property tours. And as there are so many strategies out there that we can all execute at, this one today is basically around wholesaling. And so sometimes when you come on these property tours, we might be doing a fix and flip. We might be doing a multifamily. We might be doing short-term rental, long-term rental. We've even done a hotel before. So there's always different strategies going on and that you can execute at in investing. And today we're going to be talking about with Daniel, his wholesaling deal. So again, we have these every Saturday. We love the fact that you're out today. I think you're really in store for a really nice treat here today. So Daniel, without further ado, could we go ahead and have you come out, share your screen there?
Hey, can you hear me? Can you see me?
Yes, we can see you, thumbs up, and we can hear you loud and clear. Well, Daniel, it's great to have you out again. I love when you are able to take some time out and share what you're doing. And just as important to sharing the deal is sharing your story, because, so many people want to become investors. So many people think about being a real estate investor for many years in their life, and they don't know where to go. They don't know how to get started. A lot of times they've got this fear about it, so they kind of don't do anything. And, people jump all over YouTube videos, all the different things. They may go to some guru weekends where they pay a fee and go to a weekend boot camp and try to learn everything they need to learn in one weekend, which we all know that's practically impossible. But yeah, so people are out there looking to get involved with investing. And one of the big factors that most people are missing is a community. And they don't have that support and the collaboration from other community members. And so, Daniel, you're a pretty young man. How old are you again?
I'm 26.
26 years old. And you found our community how long ago?
About 4 years ago.
About 4 years ago. Okay, so you found it when you were 22?
Yes.
That's amazing.
That
22 years old. And, we were talking earlier before we started the Zoom tour today. I mean, just to think about what I have learned the last, 4 to 8 years is just amazing. And if I could have learned half of that, no, not even half of that, Daniel, if I could have learned 1/4 of that back when I was 22, 23, 26, I can't even imagine, where I'd be today and what I would be doing. So, the fact that you took a leap of faith, the fact that you got started, took action is amazing. So let's share a little bit about your story if we could. So 22 years old, okay, you found this community, you got involved. Well, before you found the community, you had to have something that was like, man, I want to get into real estate investing. So talk a little bit about what you were doing and all that, and how you found or became excited about getting investing. What was, did you read a book? What happened to get you interested in real estate investing? And then kind of wrap that conversation up with, how did you find our community?
Yeah, I can totally do that. So my story started when I lived in Mexico. I lived there for 15 years. I was born and raised there, and a lot of things happened in Mexico where, my parents got divorced. There was a lot of violence. there was a lot of push factors for me to live the where I was living and then come here to the US with an aunt, right? Because she lived here, I could stay with her and then live for a year, learn the language, and so I can go back to Mexico and then build something there, right? That was the plan. And being here just opened my eyes to the possibilities, to the opportunities. So I decided to stay even longer, right? At some point I realized that, hey, I got out of high school already. I'm going through college. And basically what's happening right now is that because I'm an immigrant, I cannot get a job, I cannot get a license, I cannot get opportunities like citizens that were born here. So I started to exploring options like what's going on. I told people, hey, I want to be a business owner, so I want to be an investor, right? But they told me I have a picture here. So like they told me, no, you have to be working in the construction. You have to be working with your uncle, cleaning bathrooms, with your other uncle who's a roofer. They've been in the business, they've been in this country for 20 years, they know what they're doing. Just go work for them, get paid cash, don't raise any flags, stay in your box, stay, minimizing me to be safe, right? To live a safe life here in the US and then just stay there, right? And so I was like, no, I need more. I came to this country, I didn't come here to ask for handouts. I came here to actually provide jobs, right? They say, hey, immigrants are here to steal jobs. But I was just like, no, I'm gonna prove everybody wrong. I came here to create the jobs. I create the opportunities. I create my own destiny. So there was a lot of mental conflict with me and people who were telling me stuff. So I decided to, hang out with people who were doing this type of transactions, who were doing real estate, who were doing business. I soon realized that just like you can leverage other people's money to make deals, you can also leverage other people's social security numbers. you just so you can leverage other people's credit to make transactions, you can also use other people's social security number. And in my mind, I'm getting all creative. My mind just exploded with a lot of possibilities and options that I could do. I mean, that means that I don't have to stress about whether I have a social security or not. That means I don't have to stress whether I don't have the money or the credit, or I don't have access to a job, right? All those things started to be barriers that didn't matter just because I was getting educated on the possibilities. And here's Anna and Roy doing a short-term rental. They're educating on us. They're teaching us what they're doing. It's a property tour just like this one, but in person, right? So, and obviously I did a lot of Zoom. That's my wife in the corner and the right corner. She is being a huge support to me because it's one of those things where she didn't believe in me until it takes happen. Things happen, right? I start making results, and she sees me that I'm hanging out with great people. This is my very first deal as a wholesale deal. So I got my first check as an undocumented immigrant, as a person with not even a driver's license. Got this check at my title company for wholesaling this deal, right? And after that, I came from being, a guy with like, hey, this is the only thing you can do. A lot of people who are in that field are like very toxic, very minimizing to you. Now I moved to be an entrepreneur, an investor. I hang out with other investors. We talk real estate. You cannot quiet us down on real estate. We're always talking about real estate. So now I dedicate myself to teach others, right? This is why I'm here. I love doing this. I love people. I love telling people about our deals. I like educating myself. I like educating others. And obviously we have a great system where we can plug people in and set for success. So this is what we're doing now.
So if I could throw something out, Daniel, I mean, if everybody on today could just listen to, and I'm sure they have, really closely listen to your story. You were basically told, you were straight out told by friends, by family, by other people that this is what you need to do. Okay. You need to do constructions. You need to work for your uncle. You need to go and do roofing. You need to do painting. You need to do clean bathrooms as janitor. These are the things you need to do, and just, stick to it, and, I think if everybody listens to this, so many of us, that's kind of what we were brought up with. We were told, go to school, get a good, get your education, get a job, start a family, work 9 to 5 for 40 years, retire and live happily ever after kind of thing. And, one of the biggest issues with that, as we all know today, is that system or that plan does not work. Okay. Yeah, it does work for a few people, but for the majority of people, it does not. That's why we have such a large percentage of people over 65, over 70 that still have to work. And I say have to work because they've got to pay their bills to live. And they may have retired from somewhere. They may have been working for 40 years, 45, 50 years in their life, and they still have to work. And so, you were basically said, this is what you got to do. And you're like, no, there's more that I want to do. I love the fact that at 22 years old, you wanted to create a business, your own business. You wanted to help others out by giving, basically providing work, whether it's contractors, whatever it is. And, that's just amazing, Daniel, at the age of 22 years old. And I know you're 26 now, so you've been doing this for a few years. But so many people, whether they're 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, they can learn a lot from you just from the fact of, the fact that you took action and you got started. So why our community? We're a national community. You're there in Minnesota. I'm in Cincinnati, Northern Kentucky. Yaz is over in the DMV area. Shelly is up in Washington State, up by Seattle. Folks are from all over the country here on today. Why did you decide to get involved in our community?
Yeah, so I believe that it did started with the commitment of this is what I want to do, right? Like you say, I don't want to stick to the plan of this is your box and this is where you're staying. And I committed towards business and real estate. And it needed to be business. I didn't know it was actually real estate, but I knew it was business because the field is huge. It's so open. There's so many things that you can do. And so I knew business. It was a commitment that I needed to work this creatively, right? I needed to build this destiny. After hearing, if you're taking notes, if somebody here is taking notes, like there's a book called Rich Dad Poor Dad. That's like the must. You need to understand the basic concepts of being an investor and a business owner. When I was in, like you say, submerging myself in all that knowledge, I realized, hey, I needed to hang out with people that know this business. I need to hang out with people who are doing this type of transactions before. I cannot just be creative and start shooting in the air. I needed to find somebody who knew that did it before, right? Bottom line. What I found out is our community here has a lot of investors that are educated, right? There's professional training that they have taken and they have understood and they have took action on it. And I was able to plug into their knowledge, into their experience. And that for me was huge. I needed to hang out with investors that were educated, because there's a lot of groups out there that, yeah, they love talking real estate, they love talking business, they love talking how to make money, but in reality, how well they are educated in that aspect. And this was the most educated group that I found in my search, because I searched during all my college for a great group of people, and this was it.
That's awesome, Daniel. That's awesome. So we all, all the folks that are part of our community, and we have quite a few people on today that are guests, and then we also have other community members on as well. But our story and our way, our path to this community can kind of change or vary from person to person. Like for instance, for me, I happened to be on LinkedIn and I found someone's profile. I saw what they were doing because I wanted to become a real estate investor like you, wanted to be a business owner like you. And so I was on LinkedIn and I found someone's profile that I really liked what they said in their profile. I kind of looked in, read through it pretty much, and I reached out to them. And that's how I got started and how I found the community. And I started plugging in like crazy, going to everything that I could possibly go to, workshops, intensives, property tours, you name it. I was plugging into it and just, making connections, building relationships, which is what you were talking about, with people who have already done the business, and basically, if I had any negative influence in my life, I kind of pushed that all away. And I started putting people around me that were positive, that were business minded like me, that were real estate invested like me minded. And that's kind of how I got started. And so you got a wonderful community up there in Minnesota. You got some great team members. We call them family. We love to refer to that as our family. And so that's how you kind of got started. And at 22 years old, again, I know I've said that multiple times, but I would have guessed, that most people on today are older than 22. And if not the majority of all, maybe there might be a few that are not. But, and if you're not over 22, congratulations for coming out and being on today and plugging in. But you got started and you took action and you started plugging into, trainings and learning from our educators and taking classes and getting plugged in. Like when you went to do your first wholesale deal, you'd already started taking the wholesaling classes, correct?
I did had some experience with wholesaling, and I did not took the wholesaling class. What I took was the real estate red flags, real estate foundations, and the deal of the decade. And those are like essentials, right? Those are like the essentials classes you have to take. And those right there allow me to know what a good deal was, right? Maybe it didn't really teach me how to wholesale it, but it taught me what a good deal was. So I was ready to spot the opportunity, right? And the deal kind of just made itself flow, right? It was kind of those things where like, you got to spot the opportunity and everything else will flow. And I did get a lot of help from a lot of people. Hey, what do you advise? And people who were in the deal with me as well, they wanted it to perform as well. So they made it flow.
So let's talk a little bit about that. Yeah, let's talk a little bit about this deal. So when you went into this deal, you were looking at it not only as a wholesale deal, you were looking at potentially a flip, correct?
I was looking at different exit strategies.
And that's so important to have different exit strategies when you get involved in a deal. You got to run the numbers, which you did. You're going to share with people in a minute here how you ran your numbers and what you did. But so talk a little bit about how you came across this deal. how you found this deal. That's always interesting for people to hear that and learn that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's really great. I I always it's always really nice to think about how it happened, because it's like a whole story, right? I was I was one of our friends in the community say, "Hey, Daniel, I have a friend who's a fix and flipper. I don't know what can come out of this, but I think you should come and meet him, right? Maybe you teach him a little stuff. He can teach you some stuff. I don't know, man. Just come over. Let's have some coffee." And then we sat down. We talk about real estate. We talk about personal development. This guy was flipping his own properties by himself. He's saving enough money to pay cash, and he was paying with his own money the repairs. And I told him, "Hey, you don't really have to do it this way." And he's like, "Well, that's just how I want to do it." And I'm like, "All right, well, perfect." So just so you know, you can only do like one house at a time, because you're putting all your time and resources into this. He was like, "Yeah, I guess." And I have one right now that he just got burnt down, and I'm working on another one. So this one needs to sit needs to sit like for a long time until I finish this other one. I'm like, "See, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you don't have to do it this way." Bottom line, I did offer him. They do train us to talk about, hey, well, if you want to sell it, I can do that for you. I can provide it. I can buy it from you, or I can have another investor look at it as well. He liked the idea, but then he didn't really, he was scared. He's like, "Oh, wait, well, let me think about it." All right, perfect. Hey, no pressure. I call him maybe like the next day, and I say, "Hey, do you think about it? Also, I want to offer you, if you want payments over time, I can do that for you as well." And he's like, "Oh, well, that'd be really nice, but I don't want that. In fact, how about you just help me wholesale it to another investor?" So the seller knew it was a wholesale deal, right? He knew I was not going to be the end buyer, that I needed to just put it on the contract and go from there. The house just burned down, and he got insurance money. So he was just like, "If I can just get rid of this house, I'm happy, so I can keep going with my life and just focus on the flip that I have right now." I hang up the phone and say, I knew that I needed to act fast. So I hang up the phone and say, "Okay, what if I go look at it right now, and then I call you tonight?" Perfect. I hang up the phone. I drive to the place. Everything's going so fast because you want to lock the deal. You never know who is he talking to, another investor. You never know whether he just is about to purchase material for the house and then he's not going to sell it, right? So you go to the house. I took pictures. I can show you guys the pictures of how I found this house real quick, and then I can show you the before and after. So the house looked like this. I pull up. It's a beautiful day, sunny day. I go around the house, and in fact, this thing is burned down just a little bit on the side. You guys can see I'm going really fast, but I'm going to show you the befores and afters later. There's debris, construction debris everywhere. There's like a bedroom. He has a couple of appliances there. There's a bottom kitchen. So I'm looking at this house. I'm walking through it. I'm taking pictures. This is like the very first time I see it. I go look at the mechanicals. I mean, they look fine. I don't see a lot of water damage, even though it looks like a dungeon in here. But I mean, everything else, mechanicals looks good. It's just the aesthetics of it. I'm walking through this, like thinking I need to change the carpet. I need to, do some mudding. It seems as the ceiling had a trouble there. So I'm walking through this is the upper units. So this is a duplex. It's an upper unit, and this one's the one that suffered the most damage from the burn, right? The ceiling's not there. very old stucco, or not stucco. I don't know what they call it, but
Plaster.
the plaster, yeah, plaster. There's like the back door very burnt down. There's the roof. This is where the fire started. And now I'm looking at the ceiling like, oh my God, is that salvageable? Like that's charcoal already. You know, it's like, ew, it's gonna be pretty tough. And I'm pretty sure the guy was scared too, the owner, imagine. I don't have to replace the entire roof. That's gonna cost a lot of money. And then I take pictures of the outside, of their surroundings, the intersections, because I knew this was gonna be a wholesale. So I know the investor wants to see like, okay, what are the intersections? What's close to there? It seems like there's like a supermarket and you know, not a busy street. Anyways, so I looked at all that and I gave him a call that day and I say, hey, I let me send you that contract. I believe there's opportunity here for an investor, especially at the price point that he was asking about for. It's just like, man, let's put it on the contract and figure it out later.
Awesome. So you were able to put it under contract as a wholesaler. You worked with the seller and established what price he wanted on it, correct?
Correct.
And then you also established what type of wholesale fee you would make on it.
Well, no, that was not established. The seller wouldn't know, and I didn't even know what was my wholesale fee. It was it was gonna be one of those things where I was just gonna present it to investors, and then so I hear a question here: what's wholesale? And yeah, that's true. Maybe let's backtrack a little bit. What wholesale is? Wholesale is when I got this property on the contract, right? I tell the seller, you know, here's a contract, sign it. And then instead of me buying the house, I assign it to a different investor. And that investor, like this house, I put it on the contract for $100,000, $100,000. Another investor is willing to pay 150. So in this case, it was 120. So I sell the contract, not the house. I sell the contract to the investor for 120, right? At closing, the $100,000 needs to go to the seller, and the $20,000 I take it as a wholesale fee. So at that point, I don't know, right, what my wholesale fee is, because I put it on the contract, then I present it to other investors, and those investors will give me their best price, and the more they pay, the more wholesale fee I get. I hope that was clear. I hope that.
Yeah, that awesome. So in this case, though, you didn't end up wholesaling to an end investor. Fill everybody out on that. What did you end up doing?
Correct. So I did present it to an investor. I assign it to this other investor, and investor number, let's call it investor. I'm investor number one. He's investor number two. I assign it to investor number two. Then investor number two assigns it to another investor number three. So in a matter of a week, I did an assignment for 20,000. Then he knew a really great flipper that would do it for cheaper. So he's wholesaled it for 150. So he got 30,000, I got 20. But the value is I got the deal, he got the buyer, right? And so I'm happy if he can make $30,000 and I make 20 if it's in a week.
That's amazing. Absolutely amazing. So you have some pictures because you actually did a nice little thing there on your PowerPoint or your slides there, kind of showing everybody what the investor ended up doing with the property, right? You wanted to
Yes.
show the before and after real quick?
Yes, let's do that. So
Kind of neat.
there's a so later on, when I was preparing this presentation, I started to look, hey, let's see if that house actually sold. They flipped it. And so I got a couple pictures from the internet. Let me see if I can pull it up.
So while Daniel's pulling that up, so again, Daniel didn't actually purchase the property. He was able to get the property under contract and have the right to sell that property. And in this case, he ended up assigning it to another wholesaler who agreed to pay $20,000 more than what the seller wanted, which is where Daniel made his fee. And then that particular wholesaler sold it to an end investor who actually did the work and did the flip, did the renovation and the flip. So Daniel didn't do any of the construction. He didn't buy any of the materials. He didn't, have to finance the property and acquire it. All he did was get the property under contract to give them the right to sell the property. And so I know there was a question in there, who did the construction? That would be the end investor. And this is what Daniel's pulling up right now. So there's go ahead and go through this real quick for everybody, the before and after.
Yeah.
Nice.
Yes. So this is the very first bedroom that you see on the bottom unit. Seems like they changed the flooring and they did some cosmetic, right? They changed the light, and then painted. I mean, nothing really flashy. And this is what I was thinking when I was walking for the very first time. I was like, yep, this place just needs just carpet and paint, right? And as we can see here, this is the main entrance that's going upstairs. And then I believe this is still, yeah, this is the top units. Now this is the very first floor, the first floor in the kitchen. So I believe they kept the cabinets and then they changed the doors. Maybe they switched. I can tell maybe right there they did that. Or maybe they just got rid of everything and just got it. The funny thing is, I don't truly know what they did to it. I mean, just by looking at it, we can make an assumption, but I don't even know who the end buyer ended up being. That's the funny part. I don't have to do anything with the closing. I just go to the closing table and I collect the check, by providing value to other investors. So here's ugly closet converted into a laundry room, right? That's huge. If you're flipping a duplex or a multifamily, this is exactly what you want to do. This just brings a lot of value. And then, finishing the kitchen. This is the bathroom upstairs. That's the living room upstairs. It's another bedroom. You can see they did a really great job keeping it clean. I'm not sure, designers in the chat, if you're a designer, I mean, you would have chosen those floors with those countertops? I don't know. But in my opinion, looks clean for a rental. It's gonna bring very decent rents. I did an analysis.
On this particular deal, Daniel, did you need to put down any type of an earnest deposit with the seller?
I believe I didn't, because it went so fast. It happened so fast that the other wholesaler ended up putting the earnest money. I didn't do it. So that's less money out of pocket. And if somebody can tell me why is there a glove on the window right there? Like, why would somebody do that? Do you know, Scott? Put it in the chat. And then when I'm looking at the house, right? I'm not just thinking I'm a wholesaler. I'm looking at this house like, hey, maybe I flip it, maybe I flip and hold it and rent it myself, right? I'm looking through a lot of scenarios, because if I'm just go with the mentality that I'm just gonna wholesale, the opportunities are lost, right? There's so many things that you can do with a property, and I'm going through it, making my own repair estimators in case I do it, right? So we have a software in our community that allows us to do this type of reports, and it helps you create these reports because this is what you're going to show to your potential investors, to potential private lenders, to potential partners. You share this with them. So, hey, I got to figure it out, man. This is what it's going to cost us. This is how much we're going to make. You can also create this deal analysis, right? If I buy it for $100,000, the investor actually told me that he could put $70,000 in. If I do it myself, I will have to contract people. I will have to subcontract people. I would have to go and buy premium materials. I'll have to buy my materials retail, right? Because I'm not a flipper, right? I'm not in there. But somebody who's a flipper has people on payroll, has discounts in stores, right? Which, by the way, they do teach us how to do all that if you want to be a flipper, right? Get all the discounts. He told me you can do it for 70K. So this is the analysis that I did beforehand. So as you can see, it's a deal analysis of a long time ago. And then you have the repair estimations, which is 70,000, the purchase price at 100,000, right? And then those are the financing costs. You have all the holding costs, the buying costs, right? When you buy it, how much is going to buy. And then my wholesale fee is right there in the buying cost. If you can see it on the right column, it's a miscellaneous buying cost is $20,000. So I already built in my wholesale fee for the flipper, right? After paying me $20,000, they flip it and then make $27,000. Is that clear? Can everybody see that?
Yeah. Well, yeah, that's awesome, Daniel. One of the things, and it's a good question here. You're talking about the software program that we have access to. Being a part of the community, we have access to a software program called Investor Operating Software, or we call it iOS. And I saw Tony made a comment in there about iOS. And this software program is amazing. There's no others like it. It is what you're able to do with it. There's so many data points. There's so much info you can get from it. I mean, from lenders' names, lenders' contact information, from pre-foreclosures, vacant houses. There's just so much different. Plus the analyzer, like you can literally figure out your budget for your rehab and things like that. So that's what, to answer that question, that's what Daniel was referring to, is the iOS that we have access to. So if you have more questions about that, definitely get back to who invited you out to the property tour today, and they can really explain to you. They can actually send you something to maybe like a training on it so you can learn more about it. That would be awesome. And I'm going to go ahead and take this time, Daniel, real quickly to mention as well, for folks who are on today, if you're a guest today and you would like to learn more about our community, about the training and the education that Daniel has referred to, about this iOS software program, we actually have right after today's property tour, it starts at 5 after the top of the hour, at a different Zoom link. It's an overview of our community, and you can actually plug into that. So get back with the invited. They'll get you connected and get you that Zoom link, and you can jump on this afternoon. Again, it starts at 5 after the top of the hour, and it'll just go into a lot more depth than what Daniel's able to go into, or I'm able to go into this property tour. So Daniel, this all happened within a week? Is that what you've mentioned a couple times? Very quick deal.
Yes, it happened within a week.
That is amazing. You got a lot of compliments. A lot of people are, saying what a great deal, way to go. And so, would you been able to do something like this if you weren't a part of our community and you weren't taking any of the classes or education?
Well, no, because I wouldn't have been so confident on putting on the contract right away. The deal came from a referral from a friend in the community, right? So it's for me, it's a no-brainer. Just be part of this community. Like opportunities just come to you, right? You just have to be open for them. You have to see, you have to be coachable. You have to ask the right questions. I mean, not only the right questions, ask all the questions you have, right? Like people are more than happy to help me with these transactions and in a wholesome way, right? And I love it. Yeah, no, to answer your question, it wouldn't have been possible without this community.
So did you, I think, let me look at another question here. Let's see, did you end up also pulling all the comps ahead of time to be prepared to sell it, or not sell it, to actually sign the contract?
Uh, you know, this was a funny deal because I knew what a duplex was selling in that area. Like you couldn't find a duplex that was more than that was less than 200,000, right? So I knew straight up that it was going to be a really great buy and hold, right? Because just you're buying it at $100,000 discount. Yes, it needs a lot of the repairs, but if you're really just looking to buy and hold, then it just makes sense. And I was already, the funny thing is I probably did my comps. I probably did. And but I didn't generate a report. But what ended up happening is I probably told an agent to prepare a couple agents to prepare a CMA for me. And even before they send me anything, the house was already sold. You know, that's how fast it went. Like before an agent even sent me the CMA, like it was already gone. It went so fast.
So when you're referring to a CMA, you're talking about the comparative market analysis, correct?
Correct. Yeah. Yeah.
For folks who are on today, may have never heard of that terminology before, and that's actually a report that shows other like properties that and what they sold for, or maybe what they're, like both, like what's currently for sale, what's been sold. It looks within a close radius of the property, and it compares apples to apples. If one property is 3 bedrooms and 2 baths, it compares it to other 3 bedrooms and 2 baths. And so you were in the works of getting that prepared if you needed it, but the deal just sold so quickly. You assigned it to another wholesaler who ended up selling it. He already had a flipper in mind, and or she had a flipper in mind, and it all went so quickly.
Yeah. Yeah.
And the
When it's
seller now,
a great deal, you
did
have
you
to
have
act
to
fast.
negotiate? Yes, exactly. Timing is everything. And did you have to negotiate much with the seller, or did he come up with, or she come up with the price of 100,000?
There was a conversation. It wasn't a explicit negotiation, if that's the word. It was more like a conversation. Hey, how can I help you? And we didn't go back and forth on the price, like you said. Maybe it's just like he just threw the number. I'm just like, okay, yeah, let's see what happens, right? It's a great price, but let's see what happens, right? Because I know it's very damaged. Uh, so there's obviously some uncertainty on the price, but I was just like that just sounds right. Like that sounds for you have to by, and it feels like that because you understand the market, you study the market, you did market research beforehand, you have looked at deals before in that area, and just by just knowing the price, knowing the condition, you can just say, yeah, that feels right. Let's do it. Let's put it on the contract.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, and I know this is, one strategy you've done. You've shared other deals before, so you look at doing different acts. So this one, you were looking at potentially if you did it as a flip, and you were looking at those numbers that you ran in the analysis. of like, if you did the repairs and you renovated it and brought it up to market value, you ran it that way because you always want to look at different exit strategies. The exit strategy is how do you get rid of the property, basically. So this case, you ended up wholesaling it, but you were considering also if you wanted to flip the property, correct?
Yeah, correct. So many exit strategies. In fact, I do have, this is what I sent to the investors. I sent them an email, right? I only got to send one email. I say, here's the address, here's the suggested price, here's some pictures, the details, right? And then my contact information if you're interested in this property. An hour after, or even before that, the investor called me and say, I'll take it. Let's do this, right? And then for what I can see here, this is basically what happened. I was looking, when I was preparing this presentation, I saw the history of the house, and this is kind of what happened, right? So in 2018, the seller tried to sell it for 170. Then I believe that's when the house burned down. Then the listing was removed, and then he sold it to me for 100K, right? Can everybody see that? And then that was in 2022. Then then like 3 months later, it was flipped. You see, now the listed for sale didn't sell for the 335, but it sold for the 295. I was comping at that time. I was seeing houses selling for 250. It was very hard to get 275, right? But the reality is that real estate always appraises, right? Well, not always, but most of the time, for the general part, it appraises. In this market, it did. And what you can see here is that I was thinking, there's no way it's going to sell for 275. Well, guess what? It sold for 295. So it went great for the flipper, right? I did an analysis. This is an assumption of what they did, or what ended up happening. This is an assumption. These are not the real numbers. But my assumption is that, okay, so they bought it for 120, right? They put the purchase price for 120. They repair for 120. They took another 120 and repaired it. And then they sold it for 295. I do remember this, the wholesaler had these terms on their financing. Holding costs that actually ended up being a little bit more what I estimated, because taxes are just keep going up, right? That's crazy. But you have to know how to navigate the finances, the taxes, the interest. When you become a master of managing your finances, your taxes, your liability with interest, like this, taxes keep going up, that doesn't matter. Like, you just navigate, you just go around it, you find a way, you get creative, because you're educated, you know what you're doing, you're confident, you know the loopholes, right? Anyways, that's sidetracking. What happened here, we have the buying costs and the selling costs, and then if they hold it, they got $27,000 in equity. Now, this is probably this is just an assumption of what happened, but that's basically how it turned out for the end investor. I mean, that's how unless we talk to him, that's as close as we can get from what actually ended up happening.
Yeah, so this is something you ran some numbers thinking what it potentially turned out for the investor, the
Correct.
end investor. But there was a middle guy, there was the other wholesaler you sold it to that ended up making $30,000 on the deal.
Correct. Yeah.
Okay, just wanted to clarify that. Great.
And
That's
what
awesome.
I think it happens, Scott, is that this wholesaler was friends with this other flipper, and in reality, it's not like he took the 30,000 and put it in his pocket. Maybe he did, but what a lot of smart people do is, I partner with you, instead of me taking those 30,000 and put it in my bag, in my pocket, I will give you $10,000 from those 30,000 to pay the closing cost, to pay the lender fees, to pay other miscellaneous costs. And that way we can partner up on the flip. That way we can partner up. So you are not limited to $30,000. You're limited to actual potential profit sharing. That you just keep going with the friendship, you would call it, to the partnerships that you're creating with your end buyers, right? So that's a way to get creative as well.
Well, what an amazing story, Daniel. I'm just so happy that you've been able to share your story today. And it's been very enlightening. It's been very inspiring. As we wrap up today, because we really want to keep this within the hour, could you kind of, what would you like to mention or leave people with today? What would you like to, if you got folks that are on today who are looking at getting a part of this community, maybe those folks have never done a deal before, maybe they've got a rental property, maybe they've done one flip before, but they want to really go to the next level. They want to, scale their business. They want to do more business, but they want to be a part of something. They want to be a part of a community. How would you like to leave everybody today? Any words of advice or any recommendations you would give folks?
There's a lot of things that I can say, right? It's one of those things that it's a never ending conversation. And I love it that it's never ending, because, if you're living your life with passion, it's always an adventure. You never know who you're going to meet. You never know what type of conversations you're going to have, what opportunities are going to come through your day. So the biggest thing I can say to people is to be open-minded, look for those opportunities, and be leaders, right? When you're a leader, opportunities will come to you because you will be able to handle those, right? And you're going to be able to keep those opportunities because you can handle them, right? You're open to keep it. What I would say is, when it comes to being coachable, when it comes to intellectualization, mindset, all those things, you can work on them every day. What happened to me is that I was hungry because I couldn't have a job. I couldn't have a retirement account. I couldn't have a driver's license. People were looking down to me because I was undocumented immigrant, right? So that really fueled me to say, hey, I have this challenge, but in reality, it fueled me for some reason. It fueled me to prove people wrong, to actually get out of that box. And what I invite everybody to think about is, what is that box that people are telling you? Mine was very explicit, because being an undocumented immigrant is not something you just disregard in your day, right? But there's small things that you disregard every day. Like maybe you're too comfortable in your 9 to 5. Maybe you are too comfortable in your house and you're content, and maybe you're being lazy, and maybe you're just uninspired, right? That right there is a form of jail. That right there is a form of undocumented immigrants, right? Because you don't belong to success. You don't belong to this place, right? Because you're being lazy, or because you're uninspired, you're unmotivated, you're uneducated. And if you just stay there and you just get stuck, use it to fuel your success, just like any other challenge. So I appreciate everybody who was here. I hope you got something great from this. I started watching people in the screen just like you guys, in a property tour just like this, and I came to the next meeting, right? So And then after that, I came to the next meeting and I talked to more people and I talked to more investors and loan officers and agents. And I came to the next meeting and to the next one and to the next one and to the next one and to the next one. And suddenly you just fall in love.
Oh,
After so many
Daniel,
days.
what an amazing story. Gosh, I appreciate you. Thank you for coming out. I'm so excited and for what what you've accomplished already and what you're going to accomplish. Very proud of you as well. You're so inspiring to everybody, and thank you for sharing your story and your time today. For everybody on, thank you for joining us. We will be back next Saturday, 11 a.m. Eastern. We're going to be featuring one of our investors from our community down in the Austin, Texas markets, and we'll be talking about a fix and flip next week. So for everybody that's on, have a great weekend, and don't forget, if you want to jump on after this here in about 5 to 8 minutes, and learn more about our community and about the education that Daniel talked about and the iOS and quite a few other things about wholesaling, about fix and flip different strategies, get back with who invited you and they'll get you connected and get you that Zoom link. So everybody have a great weekend. Thank you, Daniel.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Scott. It's an honor.